Welcome, everyone. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining me today because we have a truly fascinating narrative to unpack. We're looking at The Enemy, which is this deeply moving, incredibly tense story written by the brilliant Pearl S. Buck. It's an explainer that's going to thrust us right into the heart of a massive moral conflict, all set against the incredibly high-stakes backdrop of World War II.
But before we get into the heavy historical details, I want you to really think about this for a second. What would you do if your sworn enemy, someone your country is actively at war with, suddenly appeared on your doorstep, completely desperate and needing your help to survive? I mean, where do you draw the line between your patriotic duty to your nation and your fundamental core humanity? Keep your own moral boundaries in mind as we explore how our main character navigates this exact terrifying scenario.
Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to follow a chronological path today, starting with the world of Dr. Sadao. Then we'll see what happens when the enemy washes ashore, explore the surgeon's dilemma, uncover the general's secret plan, and finally, witness a daring escape.
So, Part 1. The world of Dr. Sadao. We need to look at the background of this brilliant surgeon.
To understand the impossible decisions Sadao makes later on, we really have to understand his roots. Picture this. Dr. Sadao Haki grew up in this square stone house set right on the jagged rocks of the Japanese coast. When he was just 22, his father sent him all the way to America to study medicine and surgery. He spent years over there, even met his future wife Hana, before finally returning to Japan at age 30. By the time the backdrop of World War II kicks in around 1941, he's celebrated at home, not just as an elite surgeon, but as a prominent scientist. And you can see how this deep connection to both Japan and America is absolutely going to tear him in two.
Now, his father was a remarkably strict, traditional man. Never joked, never really played, but he poured literally everything he had into his son's education. When Sadao was just a little boy, his father would point out to the sea and say, "Those islands yonder, they are the stepping stones to the future of Japan." And that kind of upbringing, it ingrained a massive, unshakable sense of Japanese patriotism and duty in Sadao from a very young age.
So during the war, as you'd expect, most Japanese doctors and troops were shipped off to fight. But Sadao, he remained at home, and for two absolutely crucial reasons. First, he was perfecting a groundbreaking scientific discovery designed to render wounds entirely clean, a real game changer. And second, the powerful, aging general of the Japanese army was incredibly ill, and he trusted only Sadao to perform a sudden operation if things went south. So Sadao is kept safe at home, highly valued by the state.
Section 2. The enemy washes ashore. A sudden discovery in the mist.
One evening, Sadao and Hana are just standing on their veranda, looking out at this thick, freezing fog rolling in from the ocean. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a black figure is literally flung out of the sea by a breaker. The guy staggers, crawls a bit, and collapses. Now, at first, they figure, it's probably just a local fisherman washed from his boat. But actually, scratch that. Reality hits them hard when they run down to the rocky beach and turn the unconscious man over. It's a white man with yellow hair and a yellow beard. The faint lettering on his cap gives it away. He's a U.S. Navy sailor, an escaped American prisoner of war, their sworn enemy. The physical danger here is immediate and severe. The American has this old gunshot wound on his lower back that had violently reopened, and to make it even worse, the sharp rocks of the coast had struck it. He's bleeding heavily. And before Sadao even consciously processes what's happening, his highly trained hands just take over. He instinctively starts packing the wound with sea moss right there on the beach to stop the bleeding. Section 3. The Surgeon's Dilemma. A profound clash of allegiances. So, the crucial point is, Sadao and Hana are staring at this bleeding man on the beach, paralyzingly aware of their options. As a patriot, Sadao's duty is totally clear. Either throw the guy back into the sea to drown or hand him over to the police, which means certain execution. But as a doctor, his sworn duty is to save a dying life. If they shelter a white man in their home during this war, they risk being arrested for treason. It's a lose-lose situation. But despite the immense, terrifying danger to their family, they just cannot bring themselves to throw him back. They end up carrying this incredibly light, half-starved man into an empty Japanese bedroom in their own house.
But as you can imagine, a household in 1941 Japan cannot just quietly hide an American. The servants instantly revolt. The superstitious old gardener actually believes that since the gun and the sea tried to kill this man, they'll take revenge on the whole house if Sadao interferes. The cook, she thinks Sadao is just arrogant, wanting to show off his medical chops by saving any life, no matter who it is. And the nursemaid, Yumi, absolutely refuses to even wash the dirty American, terrified that if Sadao is outed as a traitor, the children's lives will be ruined. So Hana, terrified and literally retching, is forced to wash the enemy herself. Despite his entire household turning against him, Sadao preps for surgery. And as he operates, something incredible happens. His medical ethics completely override his national prejudice. He recalls these powerful words from his old American anatomy professor: "Ignorance of the human body is the surgeon's cardinal sin. To operate without total knowledge of the body is basically akin to murder." In that room, in that moment, Sadao isn't a Japanese man fighting an American. He is simply a master surgeon navigating the human body.
The surgery itself is incredibly intense. Hana, who has never seen an operation in her life, has to administer the anesthetic. She even has to run out to the garden to vomit at one point. But Sadao, pure laser focus. He successfully extracts the bullet from right near the kidney. And here is the absolute wildest irony of the whole scene. As he delicately works to save his enemy's life, he instinctively mutters, "My friend." It's just a habit he has with his patients. He saves the man, knowing full well he still plans to turn him over to the police eventually.
Section 4. The General's Secret Plan. This is where the tension peaks, with a lethal promise.
Over the next week, Sadao and Hana care for the American, whose name is Tom, by the way, as he slowly regains strength. But the pressure in the house is boiling over. On the 7th day, the terrified servants pack up and abandon the house entirely. Later that same afternoon, a uniformed official shows up at the door. Hana is gasping in terror. She is absolutely certain the servants have turned them in and they are about to be dragged away for treason. But, plot twist, the messenger is only there because the old general is in pain and needs Sadao. Relieved, but totally exhausted, Sadao goes to the palace and finally decides to confess the whole chaotic situation to the general. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the general's completely bizarre and pragmatic reaction to the confession. He realizes he can't have Sadao arrested. I mean, he literally needs Sadao's surgical skills to survive. So the general notes that it's a pity Sadao can't just combine German ruthlessness with American sentimentality. Basically, he wishes Sadao had the cold heartlessness to just execute the prisoner, combined with the emotional drive to save him, the general. It's a very dark, kind of humorous peek into how the general categorizes human behavior during wartime.
To solve this unfortunate problem without getting Sadao in trouble, the general proposes a chillingly pragmatic solution. He outlines an assassination plot. He promises to secretly dispatch 2 of his highly capable private assassins to Sadao's house in the dead of night. They'll make absolutely no noise, use a specialized technique that causes inward bleeding so there's no mess to clean up, and they'll quietly dispose of the body. All Sadao has to do is leave the American's outer room partition open to the garden and just wait.
Section 5. A Daring Escape. Sadao is forced to take matters into his own hands.
Sadao goes home, and wanting to spare her the terror, he doesn't tell his wife a word about the assassins. But that means he has to bear the psychological toll all by himself. For 3 sleepless, agonizing nights, he waits in the dark. Every time a twig snaps or the wind rustles, he jumps, literally expecting a murder to happen right down the hall. But the assassins never show up. The stress becomes unbearable. The American is healing, constantly thanking Sadao for saving his life, and Sadao finally realizes he simply cannot sit by and wait for this kid to be slaughtered. So Sadao orchestrates this thrilling, high-stakes escape. In the dead of night, he drags his own boat down to the shore, packing it with food, water, and quilts. He hands the American a flashlight and gives him these super specific, step-by-step survival instructions. He tells him to row to a nearby deserted island. Once there, catch and eat raw fish. No fires allowed or he'd be spotted. At sunset, he's to flash the light twice if his food runs out, or just once if he's okay. And then, just hide there until a neutral Korean fishing boat passes by and hitches a ride to safety. They shake hands one last time, and the American disappears into the night. Shortly after all this, Sadao is called in for a massive emergency 12-hour surgery on the general, which goes perfectly. About a week later, Sadao casually drops into conversation that the prisoner escaped. The general is shocked, and then admits something almost comical. He completely forgot his promise to send the assassins. He was so consumed by his own severe illness and pain that it just entirely slipped his mind. He quickly assures Sadao it wasn't a lack of patriotism, just pure self-absorption. But hey, this incredible twist of fate accidentally keeps Sadao completely safe from any treason charges. And with the American finally gone, the household returns to normal and the servants come back. This entire ordeal leads to a haunting final realization from Dr. Sadao. Standing out on his veranda, looking out at the very sea where the American had washed up, he remembers all the white people he knew in America. Some were kind, some were heavily prejudiced, some he deeply disliked. Yet, thinking of the American prisoner, his sworn enemy, he thinks, strange, I wonder why I could not kill him. It leaves us with such a powerful, resonant thought. When you strip away the uniforms, the borders, and the politics, and you're just faced with a fragile, bleeding human being, is our fundamental instinct truly to destroy, or is it, inevitably, to heal? Thank you so much for exploring this incredible narrative with me today. Keep asking those hard questions, and I'll see you next time.